My girlfriend passed away, and her parents are trying to keep every photo and letter I ever gave her. When I walked into their house 3 days after the funeral, I didn't expect to cry. I thought I was done crying. I was wrong about a lot of things that week. Her name was Olivia. She was 28. She died in a car accident on a Tuesday, which is a detail that shouldn't matter, but somehow does. It was a Tuesday when everything stopped. Olivia's parents, Richard and Helen, had asked me to come by to collect some of her belongings. I wasn't expecting much. Maybe some books I'd lent her, some clothes I kept at their house. The normal things you accumulate in a 3-year relationship. What I wasn't prepared for was to find a box on the kitchen table labeled "From Michael" in Helen's handwriting. Inside were every letter I'd ever written to Olivia. Every single one. From the first note I'd left in her car asking her out, to the letters I'd written during our long-distance period, to the silly cards with terrible jokes I'd made just because. There were also printed screenshots of text conversations, photographs of us, Polaroids, everything. I felt my chest tighten. "We want to keep those," Helen said quietly. She was standing in the doorway, red-eyed, still in her funeral dress. "They're her things. They're all we have of her now. We need to keep everything." I looked at Richard, who was staring at the floor. These are mine," I said. My voice didn't sound like my own. "I wrote them to her. I gave them to her. That doesn't make them yours to keep." "She kept them," Helen said, and there was something almost accusatory in her tone. "She treasured them. That means they were important to her. They're part of her legacy now. And I understand, I really do. I understand that they were drowning. I understand that every object, every piece of Olivia was becoming a life raft. But what they didn't understand was that those letters and photos were my last conversation with her. They were the way I could still reach her." I sat down at their kitchen table without permission. I put my head in my hands. "I'm grieving too," I said. "I'm grieving too, and you're asking me to give you the last things that make me feel like she's still here." Helen's face crumpled. Richard finally looked up. "We didn't think about it that way," he said softly. "Of course you didn't," I said, not unkindly. "Neither did I at first. But these letters, I need them. Not to keep her from you, to keep her close to me. There's a difference." We sat there in silence for maybe 5 minutes. The house smelled like flowers from the funeral arrangements. It was suffocating. Finally, Helen sat down at the table too. "What if we make copies?" she asked. "The letters, the photos. We could have copies made and you could keep the originals." I had been prepared for a fight. I had been prepared for them to refuse. I wasn't prepared for compromise. I wasn't prepared for them to reach across the table and take my hand. "I'm sorry," Helen said. I'm sorry I made it about keeping her away from you. That wasn't what I meant." We spent the next 3 hours going through that box together. They read the letters out loud. They laughed at the terrible jokes. Helen cried when she read the one where I'd written about how much I loved Olivia's kindness. And somewhere in that time, it stopped being about possession and started being about sharing her. About the fact that Olivia had been loved so completely that even the people who loved her most were fighting over the evidence of that love. The next week, Helen brought me a leather journal. Inside were photocopies of every letter, every screenshot. They'd also written letters themselves, things they wished they'd said to Olivia, things they wanted me to know about her childhood, memories I'd never have otherwise. "I realize," Helen said, "that you have something we'll never have. You have her love from her perspective. These are memories of how Olivia loved you, and we wanted to share what we know too." I keep that journal on my nightstand. I keep the original letters in a box under my bed, and sometimes, when the grief feels overwhelming, I read them all together, the ones I wrote, the ones her parents wrote, and I realize that love doesn't die when a person does. It just transforms into the things we do to hold them close. Olivia would have liked that.